Take control of your mind the way you do your breathing. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Legs crossed, back straight, eyes closed. Feeling the power of you controlling your own breathing. The same way you control your mind. One breath at a time, one thought at a time. Good air and thoughts in, bad air and bad thoughts out. Now, let's see our vision today. Let's see ourselves doing the best we can on all the exercises and stretches we do here together today, right now. Go into the future right now. See in your mind, your mind's eye. See yourself doing the best you can on whatever exercise we do together. See it so clearly that it feels real. When that music shuts off, if you've already seen it in your mind and you believe that you can make it happen, you're going to make it real. You're going to win.
There's a paradise they couldn't capture, that bright infinity inside your eyes. 매일 밤 내게 날아가 꿈이란 것도 잊은 채 나 웃으며 너를 만나. Never ending forever baby. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make my world light up inside. 어둠이 내게 내 변했었지. 길어진 그림자 속에서 And they said that we can't be together Because we come from different sides. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make my world light up inside. My 내 우주에 너 다른 세상을 만들어주는 girl. 너는 내 별이자 나의 호주니까 지금 이 시련도 결국엔 잠시니까 너는 언제까지나 지금처럼 밝게만 빛나줘. 우리는 너로 따라 이긴 밤을 수놓고 너와 함께 날아가. When I'm without you I'm crazy. 자 어서 내 손을 잡아. We are made of each other baby. You are my universe and I just want to put you first.
Jogo, Arrascaeta de bicicleta! Gol!
Good morning, guys. If we continue with the computer metaphor, the computer programming metaphor, if we accept the idea that we are the programmers, that we're in charge of our lives, and that we can create any mindset we want, the next important, huge step is to understand that we can write the program. We can write the program as we imagine it to be. Whatever life we dream of, whatever we dream of becoming for ourselves, this is the greatest insight into being human. This is the greatest thing, our awareness, our ability to be aware of what we are right now, and then write a new program. It's the second creation of you, and that is your ability. You can do that. It takes hard work, but writing it down and then actually living by that each and every day will transform you. Have a great day, everyone.
I'm going to talk about my philosophy about leadership, because when I hear the word leadership, I think about influence. So let's first talk about, what does the word influence actually mean? Okay. So influence is the power that you have to affect the actions, behaviors, and opinions of other people. In short, it means you have the influence to move somebody from point A to point B. Now, there are two kinds of influence that all leaders have. internal influence, and that's the power that you have over yourself. And in my opinion, this type of influence is the single most important type of influence to practice and cultivate that will impact your ability to impact others. Internal influence is your ability to move yourself from point A to point B. Because one of the things about being a great leader is knowing how to be flexible, knowing how to change, knowing how to pivot, knowing how to grow. And that means you've got to have influence over yourself. The other type of influence is external influence. And that is your ability to move other people from point A to point B. You know, we all have had these experiences, right, where we've been around other leaders. We've been around people that have had that implied influence, right, because of their position, because of their title. But I guarantee you've had the experience where you've had to work for or been around another leader, but they have not been that influential on you. They were either a jerk or a micromanager, or they showed up in a way that made you feel awful. You have had that experience. And one of the reasons why I want to hammer home this point, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you do. Leadership, the best kind of leadership and the most powerful kind of influence is the type that's earned. It has nothing to do with your position. It has nothing to do with your title. It has everything to do with how you show up and the way in which you treat other people. I want you to understand that the most important aspect of raising your influence and of becoming a better and a more influential leader is deciding that you want to be and claiming that leadership role in your life. When you look at leadership, and Brendan's right, it's super important that you're a student your whole life, that leadership is something that you should study. When you start to look into leadership, you're going to see that there's all kinds of books, there's all kinds of philosophies. There are servant-based leaders, there are transformational leaders, there are situational leaders, there are people who are authoritarian leaders. There's a bazillion different leadership styles. Well, what I want you to think about is, what kind of leader do you want to be? And there are two questions that I think are important for you to ask yourself. And the reason why it's important for you to ask yourself these two questions is because they will give you a roadmap that maps to your values and maps to your goals and maps to who you are in terms of cultivating a leadership style. Okay, so here are the two questions. Number one, when you leave a room, what do you want people to say about you? And these are really important, and I'm going to explain why. So for me, when I leave a room, what do I want people to say about me? Oh my gosh, she's authentic, she's smart, she's inspiring, she's fun. I want to work with her. I love her. Like, that's the kind of vibe. Those are the adjectives. And it's important for you to answer that question authentically for you. What do you want people to say about you when you leave a room? Because to me, embedded in that description is the roadmap to the type of leader that you want to be. And I guarantee you, what Brendan would say in answer to that question is different than what I would say. And it's different than what you would say. I see motivating, caring, informative, inspiring, happy, and confident. These are really important words for you to think about. And here's why. Once you answer that question, what do you want people to say about you when you leave a room? You now have this roadmap, as I've mentioned, and you can use a very powerful body of research called behavioral activation therapy, BAT. The shorthand for BAT, I talk about it a lot in my training, is act like the person you want to become. It sounds supremely stupid and simple. Everything I talk about is. And oftentimes the greatest change always comes from the simple, obvious stuff. If you want people to say that you are inspiring, happy, and confident, or you are fun, positive, and kind, act like that person. Research shows that simply setting an intention at the beginning of the day about who you want to be today, what are those words you want people to say about you when you leave the room? Wow, that Mel Robbins, she is so authentic. She is just herself. She is so smart. She is so inspiring. She's so fun to be. I really want to work with her. That is critical for you to write down. Now let's talk about the second one, okay? Because this is going to measure the impact that you want to make. Okay, so the first one is sort of giving you the roadmap to acting like the kind of leader, the sort of leadership style. Now we're going to talk about impact, and that is, how do you want people to feel when they're around you? See, the first question was about you and your reputation. The second one is about the impact that you make in people, how you're perceived. For me, I want people to leave feeling empowered, seen, and inspired. And if I had to ask, do another one, it would be energized and appreciated. So what are the words that describe how you want people to feel when they are around you? You see, another metaphor, and I love metaphors too, is leadership and influence is all about action and intention. And a metaphor that I like to think about when I think about leadership and influence is, we have this awesome dog named YOLO. He is literally one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. He's 2 years old, so he's just coming out of the puppy stage. He's an Australian Shepherd. And we've had lots of dogs in our life, and we have this awesome cat named Mr. Noodle. They're all over my Instagram stories if you follow me online. But he is just joyous. When I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to this dog panting back and forth in the bedroom because he wants to go outside, he's so excited. The second he hears me stir, he's like up on the bed. He's super excited. And I take him for a walk every morning, and we're down vacationing this month. And we're right by the ocean. And one of the greatest things that I do every morning is I walk the dog. And so I throw the ball and he runs in and out of the ocean. And, if you've ever been around a dog and a dog runs into the ocean and runs down the sand and then runs back into the ocean, what does a dog do when they're wet? They shake, right? Shake. And then sand and ocean water and seaweed and everything that's on the dog goes spraying off in every direction. It gets all over everything. Your leadership and influence style is the exact same way. You are sprinkling it and spreading it everywhere you go. And so it's so important for you to answer these questions. How do you want people to feel when they're around you? Because that is the ocean and the sand and everything that shakes off you as you're moving around through your day-to-day life. And if you want to make sure that people feel, and I see this, playful, at peace, empowered, good, you need to be intentional about causing that in people.
Hey, my
Morning, guys. Today, Gary Vaynerchuk shares with us his 9th rule for success, and that is don't make excuses. And this is the one where we release ourselves from that victim mode mentality. And he goes on to tell us there's going to be problems. There's going to be political things that we can't control in life. There's going to be health challenges that come up. There's going to be all kinds of things we can't control. But the number one thing he found that helps him is that he accepts full responsibility and he doesn't make any excuses, no matter what. So whatever happens in his life, and he goes on to tell us that he just says that everything is his fault, because by doing that, he then empowers himself to take control of whatever he can change. So let's remember that. Let's learn from Gary Vaynerchuk. Let's catch ourselves from making excuses. It's very hard. We may be used to it, but if we commit to it, we can change ourselves. Have a great day, everyone.
You know, nearly every person I know has struggled with this. For me, that feeling of I should be further ahead by now totally dominated my early 20s. I was in constant angst and it was really painful. And in my work, I've heard the same struggle from people in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s and 60s and 70s, etc. I believe this is a sickness that we human beings have. And if you don't get a handle on this thing right now, you will continue to feel empty and desperate and hopeless no matter what you do or no matter what you achieve. Now, the good news is that there are only 2 things that you need to do in order to heal yourself from this sickness. And it's important to note that these are not one-time actions, my dear. These are conscious choices that you have to make each and every single day. Number 1, I want you to adore your detours. So what does that mean? You gotta ask yourself, have you ever taken a road trip? Probably so. Sometimes you don't get to your destination at the time that you thought you would because you took a little detour. Maybe you decided at the last minute, you know what, we want to take the scenic route. You have got to trust the timing of your life. You have to trust that you made the best choices you could have possibly made at the time, because guess what? You made them. And trust that every experience taught you something that you need to know right now.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need, because I still need it too myself. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Marie Forleo, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, break bad habits.
I don't think that there is any human on the planet who, at any given time, doesn't have at least one habit that really needs to get kicked to the curb. Well, it turns out that there's a simple 2-word fix that can dramatically increase our ability to resist temptation, and it gives us a better chance to make a better choice. Now, this is based on research done by Dr. Vanessa Patrick. She's a professor of marketing at the University of Houston who published her findings on the power of self-talk in the Journal of Consumer Research. She found that when participants framed a refusal as I don't, for instance, I don't eat chocolate cake or I don't eat sugar, instead of I can't, they were more successful at resisting the desire to eat unhealthy foods or skip the gym. In fact, they found that when it came to deciding whether to eat certain foods, saying I don't was nearly 3 times as effective as saying no, and about 8 times more effective than saying I can't. Very interesting, right? I don't versus I can't. 2 teeny tiny words that can make a ginormous difference. And here's why. When we say I don't, we are empowered. We're determined. We are at choice. It's a tough, strong phrase like end of story. But when we say I can't, we disempower ourselves. It sounds like we're not allowed to do something by some outside force. You know what? We make ourselves feel deprived when we say I can't. And in essence, we make ourselves weak, whiny little bitches like, wah, I can't have a cookie. Now, what's even cooler, though, is that we can tuck this little trick into every corner of our lives. We can start making some clear, strong declarations like this. I don't eat Skinny Pop every night. I don't look at my phone during dinner.
I don't unnecessarily zhuzh the Marie TV set.
I don't put the toilet seat down.
I don't refer to everyone whose name I don't immediately remember as chimichanga.
I don't show up to the set of Marie TV nude. Starting tomorrow.
I don't stay up until 3 a.m. watching bear attack videos, rubbing fried chicken all over my thighs.
I don't say no to new experiences.
I don't shave.
Pretty awesome, right?
Rule number 3, write down your goals.
Common sense isn't always common practice. And this is why we have to go back to the fundamentals sometimes before we can get to those advanced tactics, before we can get more subtle and into more nuanced things. So the habit is this: write down your goals. Studies show, in fact, a study by Dr. Halverson showed that we human beings are literally 42% more likely to achieve our goals if we simply write them down. And this isn't about magic. Well, there is some magic to it, but in a very literal sense, it's about focus. You know, Vishen, one of the things that I did, I had this dream when I was writing the book, which, by the way, I was horrible at writing this book. I was so stressed out. I was putting so much pressure on myself. I wanted so badly to make it as good as it could possibly be. And I was driving myself bonkers. And one of the things I did every morning, I didn't just write down my goals for the book. I had a very specific goal, which was this. I wanted, to the best of my ability, to set up this book to be a #1 New York Times bestseller. And you and I both know, because we have so many friends in the industry and so many authors, you can't control that, you know, especially if you're doing it completely organically, right? It's one of those things you just kind of hope for. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But here's what I did, Vishen. I took that idea, that simple habit of just writing down goals, and I went further. I wrote down, I am a #1 New York Times bestseller 15 times every single morning in my journal for probably about 18 months. I still have all the journals in my drawers in my house.
15 times every single morning. That is so interesting.
Every morning. And it was using the words, I am, right? So it was just, I am a #1 New York Times bestselling author. I am a #1 New York Times bestselling author. And my intention was around this book. Again, completely consciously knowing, first of all, that that is an arbitrary goal. Second of all, there's a little bit of ego involved. But third of all, I also knew that if I could at least get on the list or maybe get to be #1, the most important thing for me wasn't about the title for myself. It was about the fact that that would get this book and this message into more hands. It would give it that extra little bit of credibility that would hopefully get this idea out. And one of the things I wrote about in the beginning of the book was this. You know, a friend of mine who is the CEO of Shopify, I ran into him in New York while I was working on the book. And by working on the book, I mean stressing out over it. And Toby is his name. He's like, you know, what are you working on? I said, I'm working on this book. And he's like, why are you writing a book? He's like, that's a huge project. Your business is going great. You have so many other things going on. Like, why did you say yes to this? And I said, Toby, you know what? If I were to get hit by a bus tomorrow and I could only leave one thing behind, it would be this idea. If I can do a good enough job explaining this philosophy, this belief, and the profound transformation that it can spark in every human being, then I can be like riding off on the unicorn, my cosmic next adventure, going like, all right, I did it, peace. Taking it back to 2010. But that was the feeling I had. So, you know, this idea of writing that down every single morning, and it was like 5 a.m., you know, and sometimes I would be so blurry eyed and I didn't want to do it, but I did it every single morning, 15 times. And when the New York Times list came out the week after we published Vishen, I like broke down in the ugly cry. Like I could not even breathe. I was partially exhausted because we were on tour and I was traveling around and doing just, you know, like a ton of stops or whatever, and partially just so humbled and so emotionally, just like an emotional release. So that's the habit. The habit, it's so simple. Write down your goals. If you want to supercharge it, if you want to take it to that next level and you have a singular goal that you're working on right now that is more important in your heart than anything else, write it down 15 times a day. We all know we have something called the reticular activating system, that part of our brain that helps us sift and sort what's important and what's not. And on the most basic level, writing your top goal down every single day 15 times will give you the focus that you need every morning to not get distracted by shiny objects and to do everything in your power to activate that goal and to help bring it to life.
Rule number 4, don't compare yourself to others.
Back in
this be real? It's like I'm living a dream, but it's how everyone feels. We all unite with one feel. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong, hold on tight. From afar we unite. Ah yeah, ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our. This is the time of our. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. I love this moment right now. No one can take it away. So let it happen and how. It's why I cherish each day. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong, hold on tight. From afar we unite.
Here we go.
Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. What we see, destiny. Realize now we all know the greatest. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our lives. Ah yeah, here we go, ah yeah. This is the time of our. They say.
As a goal from distance, spot the goalkeeper off his line. What a goal from McDermott.
Good morning, guys. As we go on our path to infinite mind wealth development, we're going to come across many challenges. And I wanted to share with you some of the challenges I've come across. See, when I decided to start making some changes and really start working
on becoming my greater self, there are things that are going to be challenged, including your current internal being. So there would be times when I would be making changes in my life, and naturally, at the current level I was at, I wasn't as secure within myself. And so I would be seeking more positive encouragement or validation from outside sources, including people and friends around me. And when I look back, I laugh at it now because I understand the struggle. There's a constant battle between what you want to become and what you currently are. And that's okay. It's okay to feel that struggle, but I've started to really relish the challenge of continuing to call upon my greater self. Have a great day, everyone.
You've heard this phrase that first you create your habits and then your habits create you. I think one of the challenges when you are working from home or you're traveling is to establish structure, because a confused mind tends to not do anything. You may be one of those individuals like me that needs structure. And by having a routine, a set of behaviors, they provide a system, something I could go to. And that reduces something called decision fatigue. A lot of times, if you have to think about things that you are doing on a regular basis too much, it could expend a lot of energy. And one of the challenges people report in our private Facebook group and our app and our social media is they just feel exhausted. And part of that exhaustion comes from using your brain overloaded in too many ways. So what I would say is have systems. And so, for example, for me, I have my morning routine. And you've heard me talk about this maybe in our podcast, maybe in our books and our courses, some things that are specifically for getting my mind right first thing in the morning. I believe if you want to win the day, you have to win that first hour of the day. You have to win that morning. And my goal is really not to distract myself.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I quit on my business partner. I struggled to keep going. I was making $300 a month and felt like a complete failure. And the thing that saved me, that pulled me up, was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs. I got the motivation from them. I also got the strategies of what to do next so that I can go off and achieve my dreams. And quite honestly, I still need the stories today myself to continue my motivation to take it to the next level. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Jim Quick, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
First thing in the morning, I will go through and I will say, okay, what's the most important things I get done today? Because it's not about being busy, right? We're addicted to busyness. Sometimes we say, oh, people ask, how's your day? And what are you up to? It's just like, I'm so busy. And we use busyness as maybe like a badge of honor. And what we're really saying is that we're busy, so we must be important. But the goal is not to be busy. Because then we start designing our day around being busy and we wonder why we're stressed. We wonder why we are overloaded. So what I do is I say, okay, let's say, and do this with me, please, wherever you are in your day right now. If you were to fast forward at the end of the day and somebody was to ask you, maybe a family member or a friend, how was your day? And you said, wow, it was amazing. Today was an incredible day. I crushed it. Reverse engineer it. What had to happen in order for you to say those words? What happened during those days? What things did you accomplish? Who were you being and doing, sharing, and so on? For me, I think of 3 professional things I want to accomplish. I feel that if our to-do list is 20 things or 50 things or even 100 different things, then we're just being busy. The most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important things. And you could do anything, but I believe you can't do everything. Certainly you can't do everything at once. So what would 3 wins be for your day?
Rule number 2, make your workspace consistent.
When it comes to your workspace, certain activities that you do repeatedly gets anchored to that place. Meaning the state of mind, the mood of your mind and your body, your feelings get anchored to, those activities get anchored to the context. Often what the context is gives you more of your content. I talk about in the Quick Recall Memory Improvement Program, which again, if you haven't gone through, I highly suggest it. It's usually a starting point for all our programs, because if you can't remember anything, how are you going to do well in your productivity, right? I believe I forgot are the 2 most costly productivity or in the human language. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot that person's name. I forgot what I was going to say. You lose time and energy and effort. And performance. And so the starting point when we talk about our memory really is that, certain memory is state dependent, meaning that when you imagine this, they did a study where they took subjects and they submerged them underwater and gave them a list of words to memorize. And they had a breathing apparatus and they had to memorize and study these words. And then they quizzed them. And they quizzed them both out of water, and then they put them underwater again and quizzed them again. In which environment do you think they remembered more? Underwater. Because learning it underwater, that setting got anchored to the information. And so when they went back underwater, it helped trigger some of the memories. And that makes sense, right? So if you can if you study in the room that you have to be tested in, that would be a little bit of an advantage, right? Or if you rehearse for a play on the stage, you're more likely to remember it because you get anchored and triggered by the environment. They provide contextual cues to remind you of what you need to say or do.
Rule number 3, stop procrastinating.
How to smash procrastination. And when I say that word, does it make you cringe? Is there an area of your life, something that you know you should do, but you're having trouble getting yourself to do it?
And back to legs crossed, back straight, eyes closed. Feeling the power of you regaining control of your breathing. No matter how fast your breathing became, your heart started pumping faster. Started automatically going faster. Right now, we get to take control of our breathing. To keep our back straight, our eyes closed, and our legs crossed. The same way, we get to take control of our thoughts, our mind, at any time, which will then control our bodies and our feelings directly. That's how powerful you are. But you have to believe 100% in this power, this infinitely intelligent being within you and all of us. You got to believe with all your heart and soul that you can do something. If you don't believe in yourself, nothing else or nobody else will. We're all looking to you. We're all looking to each other to find out the truth of what is already in us. We hold the key, each and every one of us. It all starts with our power to believe 100% in who we really are. That's the greatest determination you can make. 100% believing in you, no matter what, no matter how many mistakes, how many so-called failures, losses, pain, suffering you've experienced. You get to learn from all of it. You get to realize the truth, that there is no such thing as failure. There is only fuel from our mistakes and our losses, which gets transformed, gets used to create our determination.